Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to continue reading through the Chronicles of Narnia series, and we are now on book 2, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is my favorite book in the series, as I mentioned in the Magician's Nephew read through. And so yeah, all the Magician's Nephew videos, the read through is complete. We read that book. If you guys want, the views haven't really been that great on that series, but if you guys want to go check out those videos, you can go ahead and you can go ahead and check them out because they're all available now. So we're rereading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe today. So it's been. I said I was gonna start reading this book and start recording me reading this book in the third week of January. Now it's the last week of January, but we're getting started now. So go check out the Magician's Nephew videos. Leave comments, subscribe, leave likes on the videos if you enjoy them, as it would really be very much appreciated and help this channel out a lot. And go check out some of the other videos on the channel as well. And also you can check out the 10 unanswered questions about the Magician's Nephew as well. You can check that video out. That was to pretty much wrap up reading through the Magician's Nephew, and we're going to continue doing that through the rest of the books of the Chronicles of Narnia series. So yeah, that's enough of an intro. Excuse me. The Magician's Nephew book overall was fine to me. I know that it's getting adapted. That we're getting a movie adaptation of The Magician's Nephew is coming out this year. The things that I've heard about who's directing it, they don't really seem like the right choice for the job because of what we know about the Chronicles of Narnia series, that it's like, it's an allegory for like Christianity and religion and among other things, and the person that's directing it doesn't really seem that interested in it. And the person that they were going to cast for Aslan, I mean, they just don't seem like they don't understand, or they just want to do their own thing, which this is not the series for that. So like, I know books, you can't fully adapt everything from a book or a comic book or whatever, or graphic novel or whatever, into a movie or TV show, but you still have to be able to adapt most of it, or get the most important parts of whatever you're adapting, if it's a book in this case, into the movie or a TV show. So but that's enough of that. So the Magician's Nephew, that series ended up, those series of videos ended up being 7 videos. So this series, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, is going to end up being 8 videos. So yeah, one more video longer than the Magician's Nephew series of videos. So yeah, contents. Chapter 1, Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Chapter 2, what Lucy found there. Chapter 3, Edmund and the wardrobe. Also, I want to say, we're gonna start reviewing again WWE pay-per-views and AEW pay-per-views. I know those videos also as well do not do that well on the channel at all, but I still want to do those reviews. So Saturday night's main event just happened, and the Royal Rumble is next week. So yeah, I know we all know, the people that are wrestling fans, we know that we didn't even know there, that with how the build-up has been to the Royal Rumble, it's like, it doesn't feel like the Royal Rumble, unfortunately. All of last year's pay-per-views were garbage. I was watching the pay-per-view. I was watching the WWE and AEW pay-per-views last year. I just didn't review them because I had my reasons for that. But this year we're looking to get back into reviewing WWE and AEW pay-per-views. But the WWE pay-per-views from last year were all garbage. Um, I mean, and the big four pay-per-views, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series were all garbage. And then you had the other pay-per-views that weren't the big four that were also garbage. So, yeah, it was not a good year. It was. I know we've heard, especially from people like, I mean, there's tons of other people who know this, but mainly, C Jackson and BC Amplified. They talked about how bad WWE has been for the past 3 years, and then especially last year was probably the worst year in WWE history, as according to BC. And he's right. I'm not gonna lie, because I was not born for some of the years in the 90s or even the 2000s. I was born in the middle of the 2000s, so I was born in the middle of the Ruthless Aggression era. But I didn't get into wrestling much later until I was older and past. I didn't get into wrestling until I was much older and much after the Ruthless Aggression and PG era had passed. Or no, I think it was still the PG era when I got into wrestling, but it was before. It was in 2014. That's when I started watching wrestling. But anyways, the all of this is to say is that 2014, even though nobody asked, was the year I got into wrestling and superheroes. And ever since then, those two have been two of my favorite things. So professional wrestling and superheroes have been two of my favorite things ever since 2014. Not that anybody asked or cares, but I wanted to say anyways. But anyways, all of this is to say is that the Saturday Night's Main Event review is coming up. It's coming soon. Be on the lookout for that. Also be on the lookout for the Royal Rumble review and the other pay-per-view reviews for WWE and AEW this year. Be on the lookout for that. And that's pretty much it. So we can get started reading the line notes in the wardrobe. So the review for Saturday Night's Main Event is going to be a bit late, but it's coming soon, hopefully. So we'll see. And hopefully we'll see for the other WWE and AEW pay-per-views, and to continue reading through the Chronicles of Narnia series. We'll see. Hopefully we get to do all this stuff, but life happens, and unexpected things can happen in life. But basically, I just want to say I hope we can get to do all this stuff. Review the pay-per-views, and then continue reading through the Chronicles of Narnia series, and then doing some other book series maybe. So, let's get started, finally. Very long intro, but leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel, as it would be very much appreciated. Also, check out the other videos on the channel. That would also be very much appreciated as well. And finally, let's get started. Okay, to Lucy Barfield. My dear Lucy, I wrote this story for you, but when I began it, I had not realized that girls grow quicker than books. As a result, you are already too old for fairy tales, and by the time it is printed and bound, you will be older still. But someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. You can then take it down from some upper shelf, dust it, and tell me what you think of it. I shall probably be too deaf to hear, and too old to understand a word you say, but I shall still be your affectionate godfather, C.S. Lewis. Also, did I finish read the chapter names? I completely forgot about that. Did I finish read them? I actually don't know. I forgot. I don't know if I think I did. Maybe? We'll just reread them again. So, contents. Chapter 1, Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Chapter 2, what Lucy found there. Chapter 3, Edmund in the wardrobe. Chapter 4, Turkish Delight. Chapter 5, back on this side of the door. Chapter 6, into the forest. Chapter 7, a day with the beavers. Chapter 8, what happened after dinner. Chapter 9, in the witch's house. Chapter 10, the spell begins to break. Chapter 11, Aslan is near. Chapter 12, Peter's First Battle. Chapter 13, Deep Magic from the Dawn of Time. Chapter 14, The Triumph of the Witch. Chapter 15, Deeper Magic from Before the Dawn of Time. Chapter 16, What Happened About the Statues. And Chapter 17, The Hunting of the White Stag. And once again, the title of the book is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Chapter 1, Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Once there were 4 children, whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. Also, I wanted to say that I have a physical copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. For The Magician's Nephew, I don't have a physical copy of that book, so I read a digital copy. I want to get a box set of the Chronicles of Narnia books and the Harry Potter books, but we'll see what happens with that. But for now, I only have physical copies of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have physical copies of 6 of the 7 books, although I don't know where my copy of Prince Caspian is. I don't know where that is, but I think I have 6 of the 7 books. The only book I don't own a physical copy of is The Magician's Nephew. So, yeah. Alright, so let's continue reading here. Let's actually start over. So, Chapter 1, Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. He had no wife, and he lived in a very large house with a housekeeper called Mrs. Macready and 3 servants. Their names were Ivy, Margaret, and Betty, but they do not come into the story much. He himself was a very old man with shaggy white hair, which grew over most of his face, as well as on his head, and they liked him almost at once. But on the first evening when he came out to meet them at the front door, he was so odd-looking that Lucy, who was the youngest, was a little afraid of him. And Edmund, who was the next youngest, wanted to laugh, and had to keep on pretending he was blowing his nose to hide it. As soon as they had said goodnight to the professor and gone upstairs on the first night, the boys came into the girls' room, and they all talked it over. "We've fallen on our feet, and no mistake," said Peter. "This is going to be perfectly splendid. That old chap will let us do anything we like." "I think he's an old dear," said Susan. "Oh, come off it," said Edmund, who was tired and pretending not to be tired, which always made him bad-tempered. "Don't go on talking like that." "Like what?" said Susan. "And anyway, it's time you were in bed." "Trying to talk like mother," said Edmund. "And who are you to say when I'm to go to bed? Go to bed yourself." Haven't we all better go to bed?" said Lucy. "There's sure to be a row if we're heard talking here." "No, there won't," said Peter. "I tell you, this is the sort of house where no one's going to mind what we do. Anyway, they won't hear us. It's about 10 minutes walk from here down to that dining room, and any amount of stairs and passages in between." "What's that noise?" said Lucy suddenly. It was a far larger house than she had ever been in before, and the thought of all those long passages and rows of doors leading into empty rooms was beginning to make her feel a little creepy. "It's only a bird, silly," said Edmund. "It's an owl," said Peter. "This is going to be a wonderful place for birds. I shall go to bed now. I say, let's go and explore tomorrow. You might find anything in a place like this. Did you see those mountains as we came along? And the woods? There might be eagles. There might be stags. There'll be hawks. Badgers," said Lucy. "Foxes," said Edmund. "Rabbits," said Susan. But when next morning came, there was a steady rain falling, so thick that when you looked out of the window, you could see neither the mountains, nor the woods, nor even the stream in the garden. "Of course it would be raining," said Edmund. They had just finished their breakfast with the professor, and were upstairs in the room he had set apart for them, a long, low room with 2 windows looking out in one direction and 2 in another. "Do stop grumbling, Ed," said Susan. 10 to 1, it'll clear up in an hour or so. And in the meantime, we're pretty well off. There's a wireless and lots of books. Not for me, said Peter. I'm going to explore in the house. Everyone agreed to this, and that was how the adventures began. It was the sort of house that you never seem to come to the end of, and it was full of unexpected places. The first few doors they tried led only into spare bedrooms, as everyone had expected that they would. But soon they came to a very long room, full of pictures, and there they found a suit of armor. And after that was a room all hung with green, with a harp in one corner. And then came 3 steps down and 5 steps up, and then a kind of little upstairs hall and a door that led out onto a balcony, and then a whole series of rooms that led into each other and were lined with books, most of them very old books, and some bigger than the Bible in a church. And shortly after that, they looked into a room that was quite empty, except for one big wardrobe. And excuse me for any background noise, by the way. The sort that had a looking glass in the door. There was nothing else in the room at all, except a dead blue bottle on the windowsill. Nothing there, said Peter. And they all trooped out again, all except Lucy. She stayed behind because she thought it would be worthwhile trying the door of the wardrobe, even though she felt almost sure that it would be locked. To her surprise, it opened quite easily, and 2 mothballs dropped out. Looking into the inside, she saw several coats hanging up, mostly long fur coats. There was nothing Lucy liked so much as the smell and feel of fur. She immediately stepped into the wardrobe and got in among the coats and rubbed her face against them, leaving the door open, of course, because she knew that it is very foolish to shut oneself into any wardrobe. Soon she went further in and found that there was a second row of coats hanging up behind the first one. It was almost quite dark in there, and she kept her arms stretched out in front of her so as not to bump her face into the back of the wardrobe. She took a step further in, then 2 or 3 steps, always expecting to feel woodwork against the tips of her fingers, but she could not feel it. This must be a simply enormous wardrobe, thought Lucy, going still further in and pushing the soft folds of the coats aside to make room for her. Then she noticed that there was something crunching under her feet. I wonder, is that more mothballs? She thought, stooping down to feel it with her hand. But instead of feeling the hard, smooth wood of the floor of the wardrobe, she felt something soft and powdery and extremely cold. This is very queer, she said, and went on a step or 2 further. Next moment, she found that what was rubbing against her face and hands was no longer soft fur, but something hard and rough and even prickly. Why, it is just like branches of trees, exclaimed Lucy. And then she saw that there was a light ahead of her, not a few inches away where the back of the wardrobe ought to have been, but a long way off. Something cold and soft was falling on her. A moment later, she found that she was standing in the middle of a wood at nighttime with snow under her feet and snowflakes falling through the air. Lucy felt a little frightened, but she felt very inquisitive and excited as well. She looked back over her shoulder, and there, between the dark tree trunks, she could still see the open doorway of the wardrobe and even catch a glimpse of the empty room from which she had set out. She had, of course, left the door open, for she knew that it is a very silly thing to shut oneself into a wardrobe. It seemed to be still daylight there. I can always get back if anything goes wrong, thought Lucy. She began to walk forward, crunch, crunch, over the snow, and through the wood toward the other light. In about 10 minutes, she reached it and found there was a lamp post. As she stood looking at it, wondering why there was a lamp post in the middle of a wood, and wondering what to do next, she heard a pitter-patter of feet coming toward her. And soon after that, a very strange person stepped out from among the trees into the light of the lamp post. He was only a little taller than Lucy herself, and he carried over his head an umbrella, white with snow. From the waist upward he was like a man, but his legs were shaped like a goat's. The hair on them was glossy black, and instead of feet he had goat's hooves. He also had a tail, But Lucy did not notice this at first because it was neatly caught up over the arm that held the umbrella so as to keep it from trailing in the snow. He had a red woolen muffler around his neck, and his skin was rather reddish too. He had a strange but pleasant little face, with a short pointed beard and curly hair, and out of the hair there stuck two horns, one on each side of his forehead. One of his hands, as I have said, held the umbrella. In the other arm he carried several brown paper parcels. What with the parcels and the snow, it looked just as if he had been doing his Christmas shopping. He was a faun, and when he saw Lucy, he gave such a start of surprise that he dropped all his parcels. "Goodness gracious me!" exclaimed the faun. And that's the end of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. What Lucy Found There. "Good evening," said Lucy, but the faun was so busy picking up its parcels that at first it did not reply. When it had finished, it made her a little bow. "Good evening." "Good evening," said the faun. "Excuse me, I don't want to be inquisitive, but should I be right in thinking that you are a daughter of Eve?" "My name's Lucy," said she, not quite understanding him. "But you are, forgive me, you are what they call a girl?" asked the faun. "Of course I'm a girl," said Lucy. "You are, in fact, human." "Of course I'm human," said Lucy, still a little puzzled. To be sure, said the faun. "How stupid of me. But I've never seen a son of Adam, or a daughter of Eve before. I am delighted. That is to say," and then it stopped as if it had been going to say something it had not intended, but had remembered in time. Delighted, it went on. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tumnus." "I am very pleased to meet you, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy. "And may I ask, O Lucy, daughter of Eve," said Mr. Tumnus, "how have you come into Narnia?" "Narnia? What's that?" said Lucy. "This is the land of Narnia," said the faun, "where we are now, all that lies between the lamp post and the great castle of Cair Paravel on the eastern sea. And you? You have come from the wild woods of the west? I got in through the wardrobe in the spare room," said Lucy. "Ah," said Mr. Tumnus, in a rather melancholy voice. "If only I had worked harder at geography when I was a little faun, I should no doubt know all about those strange countries. It is too late now." "But they aren't countries at all," said Lucy, almost laughing. "It's only just back there. At least, I'm not sure. It is summer there." "Meanwhile," said Mr. Tumnus, "it is winter in Narnia, and has been for ever so long, and we shall both catch cold if we stand here talking in the snow. Daughter of Eve from the far land of Spare where eternal summer reigns around the bright city of Wardrobe, how would it be if you came and had tea with me?" "Thank you very much, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy, "but I was wondering whether I ought to be getting back. It's only just round the corner," said the faun, "and there'll be a roaring fire, and toast, and sardines, and cake." "Well, it's very kind of you," said Lucy, "but I shan't be able to stay long." "If you will take my arm, daughter of Eve," said Mr. Tumnus, "I shall be able to hold the umbrella over both of us. That's the way. Now off we go." And so Lucy found herself walking through the wood, arm in arm with this strange creature, as if they had known one another all their lives. They had not gone far before they came to a place where the ground became rough, and there were rocks all about, and little hills up and little hills down. At the bottom of one small valley, Mr. Tumnus turned suddenly aside, as if he were going to walk straight into an unusually large rock, but at the last moment, Lucy found he was leading her into the entrance of a cave. As soon as they were inside, she found herself blinking in the light of a wood fire. Then Mr. Tumnus stooped and took a flaming piece of wood out of the fire with a neat little pair of tongs and lit a lamp. "Now we shan't be long," he said, and immediately put a kettle on. Lucy thought she had never been in a nicer place. It was a little, dry, clean cave of reddish stone, with a carpet on the floor and two little chairs, "one for me and one for a friend," said Mr. Tumnus. and a table, and a dresser, and a mantelpiece over the fire, and above that a picture of an old fawn with a gray beard. In one corner there was a door which Lucy thought must lead to Mr. Tumnus's bedroom, and on one wall was a shelf full of books. Lucy looked at these while he was setting out the tea things. They had titles like The Life and Letters of Silenus or Nymphs, and their ways, or Men, Monks, and Gamekeepers, a study in popular legend, or is man a myth? Now, daughter of Eve, said the fawn, and really it was a wonderful tea. There was a nice brown egg, lightly boiled for each of them, and then sardines on toast, and then buttered toast, and then toast with honey, and then a sugar-topped cake. And when Lucy was tired of eating, the fawn began to talk. He had wonderful tales to tell of life in the forest. He told about the midnight dances, and how the nymphs who lived in the wells and the dryads who lived in the trees came out to dance with the fawns, about long hunting parties after the milk-white stag, who could give you wishes if you caught him, about feasting and treasure seeking, with the wild red dwarves in deep mines and caverns far beneath the forest floor, and then about summer when the woods were green, and old Silenus on his fat donkey would come to visit them, and sometimes Bacchus himself, and then the streams would run with wine instead of water, and the whole forest would give itself up to jollification for weeks on end. Not that it isn't always winter now, he added gloomily, something like that. Then, to cheer himself up, he took out from its case on the dresser a strange little flute that looked as if it were made of straw, and began to play. And the tune he played made Lucy want to cry and laugh and dance and go to sleep all at the same time. It must have been hours later when she shook herself and said, "Oh, Mr. Tumnus, I'm so sorry to stop you, and I do love that tune, but really I must go home. I only meant to stay for a few minutes. It's no good now, you know," said the fawn, laying down its flute and shaking its head at her very sorrowfully. "No good," said Lucy, jumping up and feeling rather frightened. "What do you mean? I've got to go home at once. The others will be wondering what has happened to me." But a moment later she asked, "Mr. Tumnus, whatever is the matter?" For the fawn's brown eyes had filled with tears, and then the tears began trickling down its cheeks, and soon they were running off the end of its nose, and at last it covered its face with its hands and began to howl. Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy, in great distress. Don't. What is the matter? Aren't you well, dear Mr. Tumnus? Do tell me what is wrong." But the fawn continued sobbing as if its heart would break, and even when Lucy went over and put her arms round him and lent him her handkerchief, he did not stop. He merely took the handkerchief and kept on using it, wringing it out with both hands whenever it got too wet to be any more use, so that presently Lucy was standing in a damp patch. "Mr. Tumnus," bawled Lucy in his ear, shaking him, "do stop. Stop it at once. At once. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, a great big fawn like you. What on earth are you crying about?" Oh, sobbed Mr. Tumnus. "I'm crying because I'm such a bad fawn." "I don't think you're a bad fawn at all," said Lucy. "I think you are a very good fawn. You are the nicest fawn I've ever met." Oh, you wouldn't say that if you knew," replied Mr. Tumnus between his sobs. "No, I'm a bad fawn. I don't suppose there ever was a worse fawn since the beginning of the world." "But what have you done?" asked Lucy. "My old father now," said Mr. Tumnus. "That's his picture over the mantelpiece. He would never have done a thing like this." "A thing like what?" said Lucy. "Like what I've done," said the fawn. "Taken service under the White Witch. That's what I am. I'm in the pay of the White Witch." "The White Witch? Who is she?" Why, it is she that has got all Narnia under her thumb. It's she that makes it always winter, Always winter and never Christmas. Think of that." "How awful," said Lucy. "But what does she pay you for?" "That's the worst of it," said Mr. Tumnus with a deep groan. "I'm a kidnapper for her. That's what I am. Look at me, daughter of Eve. Would you believe that I'm the sort of fawn to meet a poor innocent child in the wood, one that had never done me any harm, and pretend to be friendly with it and invite it home to my cave, all for the sake of lulling it asleep and then handing it over to the White Witch?" No, said Lucy. "I'm sure you wouldn't do anything of the sort." "But I have," said the fawn. "Well," said Lucy rather slowly, for she wanted to be truthful and yet not be too hard on him. "Well, that was pretty bad. But you're so sorry for it that I'm sure you will never do it again." "Daughter of Eve, don't you understand?" said the fawn. "It isn't something I have done. I'm doing it now, this very moment." "What do you mean?" cried Lucy, turning very white. "You are the child," said Tumnus. "I had orders from the White Witch that if I ever saw a son of Adam or a daughter of Eve in the wood, I was to catch them and hand them over to her. And you are the first I ever met. And I pretended to be your friend and asked you to tea. And all the time I've been meaning to wait till you were asleep and then go and tell her." "Oh, but you won't, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy. "You won't, will you?" Indeed, you really mustn't." "And if I don't," said he, beginning to cry again, "she's sure to find out. And she'll have my tail cut off, and my horns sawn off, and my beard plucked out, and she'll wave her wand over my beautiful cloven hooves, and turn them into horrid solid hooves, like a wretched horse's. And if she is extra and specially angry, she'll turn me into stone, and I shall be only a statue of a fawn in her horrible house, until the 4 thrones at Cair Paravel are filled. And goodness knows when that will happen, or whether it will ever happen at all." "I'm very sorry, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy, "but please let me go home." "Of course I will," said the fawn. "Of course I've got to. I see that now. I hadn't known what humans were like before I met you. Of course I can't give you up to the witch, not now that I know you, but we must be off at once. I'll see you back to the lamp post. I suppose you can find your own way from there back to Spare Room and Wardrobe?" "I'm sure I can," said Lucy. We must go as quietly as we can," said Mr. Tumnus. "The whole wood is full of her spies. Even some of the trees are on her side." They both got up and left the tea things on the table, and Mr. Tumnus once more put up his umbrella and gave Lucy his arm, and they went out into the snow. The journey back was not at all like the journey to the fawn's cave. They stole along as quickly as they could, without speaking a word, and Mr. Tumnus kept to the darkest places. Lucy was relieved when they reached the lamp post again. "Do you know your way from here, daughter of Eve?" said Tumnus. Lucy looked very hard between the trees, and could just see in the distance a patch of light that looked like daylight. "Yes," she said, "I can see the wardrobe door." "Then be off home as quick as you can," said the fawn. "And can you ever forgive me for what I meant to do?" "Why, of course I can," said Lucy, shaking him heartily by the hand. "And I do hope you won't get into dreadful trouble on my account." "Farewell, daughter of Eve," said he. "Perhaps I may keep the handkerchief?" "Rather," said Lucy, and then ran toward the far-off patch of daylight as quickly as her legs would carry her. And presently, instead of rough branches brushing past her, she felt coats, and instead of crunching snow under her feet, she felt wooden boards. And all at once, she found herself jumping out of the wardrobe into the same empty room from which the whole adventure had started. She shut the wardrobe door tightly behind her and looked around, panting for breath. It was still raining, and she could hear the voices of the others in the passage. "I'm here," she shouted. "I'm here. I've come back. I'm all right." And that is the end. of chapter 2. So far, you know, I've read this book many times before, and it's a very interesting setup. I mean, and the setup is not very long. The setup, I mean, within 2 chapters, Lucy has already been in Narnia, and she's already met Mr. Tumnus, the fawn. So, yeah. Yeah, we read the first 2 chapters, finally. We finally did it. I also wanted to say, because as I said at the beginning of the video, I originally wanted to start reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe back in the 3rd week of January, of this year, but I unfortunately didn't get to do that, and so I started it in the last week of January, and now it's February. So yeah, so when this comes out, it'll be February of 2026 already. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So the reflections, we're gonna read those as well, and then I also wanted to say that I don't own a physical copy of the I don't own a physical copy of The Magician's Nephew book. I read a digital copy of The Magician's Nephew book. So yeah, I read a digital copy of The Magician's Nephew, but The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I have a physical copy of this book. So yeah. Also wanted to say, I thought this book was longer. I don't know if it's just a copy that I have, but this book is apparently it's only 189 pages. So yeah, I don't know if that's the standard amount of pages that other copies of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe has. I don't really know, but this copy that I'm reading has 189 pages. Excuse me. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. So yeah, we're gonna read the reflections, and then we're gonna wrap up this first video of rereading through The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Alright, so on to the reflections for chapter 1 and 2 of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This post was written on Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Chapter 1. Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Chapter summary. 4 children have moved to a large country home of an old professor in England to escape the London air raids of World War II. Susan, Lucy, Edmund, and Peter. Upon arriving, the 4 children realize that their new home will afford them many freedoms, including exploration of the large house and surrounding area. It's raining the next day, so the 4 children spend the day exploring the house. In one room, they find nothing but a wardrobe. Lucy is the only one remains. I assume that's he didn't fully complete the sentence wasn't really written correctly. But I'm gonna continue on. Lucy is the only one who remains to look into the wardrobe. When she does, she walks through coats and furs, expecting to find the back, but instead finds herself in a forest with snow on the ground and a gleaming light in the distance. She turns around and can still see the professor's house from the woods. Lucy follows the light and finds that it's a lamp post in the woods. Then a fawn, goat on bottom, human on top, basically steps out of the trees into the lamplight. Reflection. The first chapter of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe contains several of the most recognizable images from the entire T-Con series. Lucy peering into the wardrobe, Lucy emerging from the wardrobe, and probably the most famous, Lucy at the lamppost in the snowy woods. This last image always brings to mind a certain Robert Frost poem. I don't know who that is, but continuing on. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. For those of you who haven't seen the image, here is generally what it looks like, or similar enough. And I'll show you guys the image. I'll put it in the video. So yeah. If you haven't seen the image or the image that looks similar enough, as the person says here. Continuing on. This has gotten me thinking. Why is the image of Lucy at the lamppost the most iconic image from the entire series? I mean, there are some pretty intense, interesting, and significant images that Lucy has to compete with in TCon. I would name them, but they are pretty much all major spoilers. Yeah, don't do that, especially because of the books that I haven't read yet. If you've read the books before, you know what images come to mind. I don't, so because I haven't read the You guys know what books I haven't read yet. If you watch the Magician's Nephew series, here's my main theory. It is probably one of the happiest images from the entire series. This isn't to say that the entire series is gloom and doom, but for better or for worse, a lot of the memorable moments in the series are rather dark. Of course, once we find out why it's snowy and cold, rather than sunny and warm, we realize that this image is also rather dark. But as of Chapter 1 of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, we technically don't know any better. I think another reason this image is so famous is all that it embodies, and some of these things I have spoken about in previous entries. Lucy's discovery at the lamppost brings to mind childhood adventure and exploration. You know, you explored every room of Great Aunt Mary's giant house. It brings to mind our own childhood discoveries and adventures of when we learned things for the first time. For those of us who grew up in warmer climates, the snow itself is magical and brings to mind memorable childhood moments. If you were in Houston on December 24th, 2004, you know what I'm talking about. And if you weren't, it's worth reading about. So yeah, they leave a link. You can't really click the link though, but you know, if you want to read about it, you can just search up, go to Wikipedia and type /2004 Christmas Eve snowstorm. Yeah, so continuing on here, it is also an image of profound innocence, and along with that, ignorance, an innocence that is present only for a brief moment in time, because as soon as the events of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe progress, that innocence disappears rather quickly. So we remember it not only because it is happy and emits happy memories in ourselves, but because it is a very fleeting sort of happy, because those of us who have read the series before know exactly what comes next. So yeah, that's the summary and reflection for the first chapter of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I want to comment here on the about talking about how Lucy's discovery of the lamppost brings to mind childhood adventure and exploration. I've never been really a person who explores. I don't really like, it brings to mind our own childhood discoveries and adventures of when we learn things for the first time. No, not really. I'm just, for who I am as a person, not that anybody asked, I've never really been interested in going on adventures. I'm not really somebody who likes to try new things, and I prefer to keep to myself a lot. So yeah, so I'm not really looking to discover new things or go on an adventure in new states or countries or anything like that. So yeah, not that anybody asked, but that is true. So yeah, that's true for me, basically. So on to chapter 2. Okay. This post was written on Thursday, July 24th, 2014. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, chapter 2. What Lucy found there. The reflection is really long, but hopefully we'll get through it. The chapter summary is pretty short. Mostly short. I mean, it seems to be only 3 paragraphs. I think that's the way I should be looking at it. And then the reflection has 6 paragraphs. That's what it looks like to me. But continuing on here, chapter summary. The fawn introduces himself to Lucy as Mr. Tumnus, asks whether Lucy is a daughter of Eve, and asks where she has come from. Lucy says that she is human and has come from the wardrobe in the spare room. Mr. Tumnus then invites Lucy to tea in his home. The two walk arm in arm until they reach Mr. Tumnus's home, which is in a small cave. Mr. Tumnus prepares food and tea and then tells Lucy stories from Narnia. Suddenly, hours later, Mr. Tumnus cries inconsolably for a length of time. He finally admits that he is in the service of the White Witch, and that he had been instructed to kidnap any son of Adam or daughter of Eve he might meet in the woods, and deliver him/her to the White Witch. Mr. Tumnus explains that the White Witch keeps Narnia in perpetual winter and holds all of Narnia in a great deal of fear and in her control. Despite being certain that the White Witch would find out, Mr. Tumnus agrees to bring Lucy back to the lamppost in the woods so that she can return home. The two stealthily return, and Lucy goes back through the wardrobe, announcing to her siblings that she has returned. Reflection. This chapter has me thinking about changes of heart and major life decisions. From reading the chapter, it seems that Mr. Tumnus is not really the type of creature to follow the orders of the White Witch and kidnap little girls, but has he chosen to do so, most likely because he is terrified. Can anybody say Nazi influence? What catches Mr. Tumnus off guard and makes him unable to complete the kidnapping is that Lucy ends up being a very kind, compassionate creature, and the more Mr. Tumnus cries, the more compassionate Lucy becomes. The whole episode is rather upsetting to Mr. Tumnus, and understandably so. He is genuinely concerned that the White Witch will discover his transgression if he helps Lucy escape. He notes that the White Witch has spies all throughout the forest, and that even some of the trees are aligned with her. He truly believes that he will almost certainly be discovered and subjected to torture or worse by the witch. As a result, Mr. Tumnus's decision to help Lucy escape is most definitely a change of heart, and most certainly a significant life decision. Absolutely. I agree. Now that you can see how this topic connects, I can connect it to my own experience. Here is something not many people know about me. I make important life decisions and changes of heart incredibly fast. Everything I have read tells me that this is impulsive, dangerous, and concerning behavior. But it has really only come to bite me in the butt once or twice, and I've never been incarcerated, so I guess they weren't that bad. But in general, the decisions I have made have quickly resulted in positive outcomes. While I won't, share all of the major life decisions I've made, I can definitely share a few. Here's one. When I was a rising senior at Baylor in July of 2010, it took me only 3 days, less than 36 hours from the time that I knew what student affairs was to the time that I decided I wanted to go to graduate school in student affairs and build a career in that field. Here's another one. I knew within 2 hours of being on the Baylor campus in September of 2005 that I wanted to attend Baylor. And another one. The average time I have taken to accept job offers is about 45 minutes. One more. When I first started attending church in Waco in August of 2006, I knew from the first time I attended that this was the church I wanted to go to. During my 4 years at Baylor, I never went to another church. Ironically, I've been to 4 different churches in the last 4 weekends here in Waco. There are plenty of other examples, but those will suffice. I'm not sure what it is. I think perhaps I just know what I want before I begin the process of looking. For instance, I knew that I wanted a career where I could help others but still make enough money to support a family. And as soon as I knew that I could do that by remaining on college campuses and working with students, I was pretty much sold on that idea. Perhaps I'm impulsive, but perhaps I just know myself rather well. if many of my decisions had resulted in negative circumstances, I might disagree with that statement, but most of them do not. And what's funny is that I can't share my best examples of the major life decisions I've made, since they're a little more on the private, non-internet side of things, but suffice to say that a majority of those have had positive outcomes as well. Let's hope that Mr. Tumnus's major decision works out just as well for him. And that's the end of the reflection for chapter 2. Okay, so he talks about he talks about some of the major life decisions he's made. I can't really speak on that too much, but I will say that so for the examples, so I'm going to get into this line here. There are plenty of other examples, but those will suffice. I'm not sure what it is. I think perhaps I just know what I want before I begin the process of looking. Now, I do know what I want in life, and I only want the simple things in life. I'm a pretty simple person. I'm not going to lie. I don't really like things being made complicated. I don't like chaos. I think I can say that I pretty much live life like how do I describe it? Like, I just pretty much like I don't know how to say it. It's like I live life like pretty much moment to moment. Okay, so basically, I pretty much just, I don't like plan things. I pretty much just do things. Well, I'm really bad at explaining things, but I don't really, I haven't really made a lot of life decisions. Like, there are a lot of regrets in my life that I've made, but, we're not talking about that right now. But I can't really think of any major life decisions I've made, because I don't think I've been put in the position to make any major life decisions. And also, if I were to be put in those positions, I think, unlike the guy this guy, I think they would have negative outcomes. So yeah, but I pretty much just live life. Just casually. I really don't know how to describe it, because I'm bad at explaining things, but I don't really plan things out that much. I'm casual about most things, because I just don't really, I'm just not that type of person. And I think people who really plan, for their life, for their future in school, after school, and, just in life in general, that's all well and good. But me personally, I just don't live life that way. I'm just thankful that, I get to wake up every day and, do the things that I prefer, that I want to do. Even though that's not really, that's most of the time, but then it's half and half. So there are times where I get to do where I mostly get to do what I want to do, but then other times I have to go along and basically be forced into doing things that I don't want to do. So yeah. But yeah, pretty much, I just pretty much, live life and just do things. I'm kind of like him, kind of, not really. I'm kind of like the guy who writes these who wrote these summaries and reflections, but not to that much of not as much as to the extent of his major life decisions. Okay, so since I'm basically struggling to put this into words, I'm just gonna use this word. So I basically live life casually. I just pretty much just go through life casually, and yeah. So yeah, enough about that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm really as you guys had heard, I'm really struggling to put this into words and say what I'm trying to say, because I'm really bad at explaining things. So I'm just gonna stop and end it. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna end it right there. So yeah. We have now read the first 2 chapters of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We've read the summaries and reflections for those chapters. So yeah, that's done. So coming soon is, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, or earlier in the video, that the reviews for Saturday night's main event and the Royal Rumble are coming soon for the channel, are coming soon on the channel. And so yeah, be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for this video and the rest of the read-through or read-through. I'm just gonna call it the read-through. I'm just gonna title this video like the Magician's Nephew video. The title of the book, C.S. Lewis. That it's written by C.S. Lewis, and then the chapters of the names of the chapters. So yeah, so look forward to this video coming out. Look forward to the rest of the read through of the Chronicles of Narnia series, and yeah, and WWE Saturday Night's Main Event and WWE Royal Rumble. So yeah, look forward to those videos on the channel. So yeah, go check out the other videos on the channel. Check out the Magician's Nephew videos, and leave likes and subscribe to the channel, as it would be very much appreciated. Leave a like on this video. Leave comments if you want, as it would be very much appreciated as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I said all I need to say. So yeah, see you in the next video, hopefully, and bye. And here's the image that the guy was talking about, that he put in this post, and that he said it's similar. It's basically, it's similar enough. This is the picture. So yeah, yeah, that's it. Bye. Okay, so yeah, for the final time. So as he said, then, not that. For those of you who haven't seen the image, here is generally what it looks like, or similar, and yeah. Okay, I'll stop. I'm done. Bye.